Back on that First Today broadcast at 7:14, Dave Garroway played a record called Slowpoke. Music and dance have been a part of the mix here ever since. Big names and first-timers, they've all added a little rhythm to help start the day.
And we have Duke, as you can plainly see. Duke, would you play us some of your own tunes?
Oh, sure. What would you like? Well, let's play one of Strayhorn's first.
All right.
Good morning, sunshine.
Had enough?
No, I'm just beginning.
Come on, guys.
So when I kiss you goodnight, just sleep tight with a thought that you'll always be caught up in love with me.
Hey! I got soul, and I'm super bad.
I could just go on and on and on, and the day goes down. That's when the day goes falling down. Ooh, I'm all shook up.
You can count Gladys Knight among the many stars featured on Today over the years. In fact, she got her start just about the same time the show did. In the same year that Today debuted, Gladys made her own network television debut on the Ted Mack Amateur Hour. Her rendition of Nat King Cole's Too Young won the $2,000 grand prize. There's been many more awards and hit records during Gladys's 40-year career. Tonight, she helps us travel back in time with a tune that K-Star put on the charts back in '52. With apologies to Vanna, it's called Wheel of Fortune. Before we get to that, tell me, what'd you do with the $2,000 Ted Mack gave you?
Well, my mom put it in the bank. My mom and dad put it in the bank. And it stayed there for a good little time until I got to high school. And I was doing a lot of things when I was in high school. I was in a lot of clubs and stuff like that. And, you know, we were...
So you knew all along this was where you'd be, right?
You mean in the business?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you say it like that? You act like it hadn't been fun.
Well, I wasn't thinking about it then. You know, when we're young, we don't really realize how blessed we are sometimes, you know? And I was looking at skating, you know, up and down the street with Bubba them, you know, to put on my coveralls and stuff.
Bubba's over here. He already been scolded.
Yeah.
He can't do anything. Okay, let me get on. You don't need me to do Wheel of Fortune, right?
I would like you to. No, I got you. I got him, didn't I?
Should I stay? No, go ahead.
The wheel of fortune goes spinning around. Will the arrow point my way? Will this be my day? Will this be the day? Ooh, wheel of fortune.
Gladys Knight, thank you.
Congratulations on the 40.
Thank you very much, love. We're going to come on back in just a moment. Katie's here with my former partner of the Dawn Patrol, Jane Pauley, right after this.
Give me a break. I don't like being called perky.
I'm sorry.
Did you mean that as a compliment?
No, we really would have called you pensive and sullen, which I think are the exact words.
It's a little more poetic, isn't it?
But I thought for morning TV, maybe we should try to say Sartre, Camus, Jane Pauley.
Many believed it was the innovative spirit of Europe that inspired him. And when Mr. Ford came home, he created Lincoln Continental. Today, with computerized suspension, electronic transmission, and anti-lock brakes, Continental is one of the most advanced automobiles in the world. Lincoln Continental, what a luxury car should be. If you make it, they won't eat it. Introducing the sweeter side of Wheaties, new Wheaties Honey Gold. If you make it, they won't eat it. Because people are hungering for the crispy flakes of corn and whole grain wheat that make it Wheaties. Hungering for that delectable golden honey that makes it Honey Gold. New Wheaties Honey Gold, the sweeter side of Wheaties.
Is this heaven?
No, it's breakfast.
New Wheaties Honey Gold, the sweeter side of Wheaties.
Today at 40 continues in a moment.
This week on Today, go behind the scenes on the movie set of Arnold Schwarzenegger's directing debut and get up close and personal with the music sensation that's sweeping the nation, Garth Brooks, plus General Colin Powell 1 year after the Persian Gulf War. Join Bryant Gumbel and Katie Couric as the 40th anniversary celebration continues all this week on Today.
They've been sentenced to die. Now, relatives of these Cuban exiles take their fight all the way to the White House. Jose Diaz-Pilar traveled with them to Washington. His report tonight.
Temperatures below freezing in Florida, you better believe it. But how cold will it really get here in South Florida? Find out tonight at 11 on the Channel 4 News Nightcast.
Wednesday, one day only, 20 to 50% off everything at J. Byron's.
Get the right look, the right price. J. Byron's.
The technology developed on the track for the awesome 650 horsepower Lumina NASCAR champion goes into cars like this. The 1992 twin dual cam V6 Chevy Lumina Z34. Sorry, decals not included. Chevy Lumina Z34 from the heartbeat of America. And now it's easy to win with a heartbeat.
The people your kids trust are the worst sex offenders in America. Now it can be told.
Now it can be told with Geraldo Rivera, weekdays at 4 on Channel 4.
Exotic dancers and death in a strip palace on hard copy.
(1976 to 1989) at Today, they were the Jane Pauley years. In 13 years of early to bed and early to rise, Jane changed a lot from the 25-year-old Indiana newsreader some people said was simply too young to host Today.
Well, maybe you're wondering how I got here, and maybe I am too.
Just hello. We've got a busy morning ahead.
You can call me Ollie, please. It keeps me young.
Oh, heck, you can call me Janie if you'd like.
Janie?
Yeah.
Our pal here is getting married next week to a little-known cartoonist.
Lauren, but I look like I'm going to be afloat in the parade tomorrow. You mean you won't stand? It doesn't look attractive to eat it on television. No, it doesn't. Talk about it while you're eating it.
I have to thank NBC for giving me this incredible front row seat for the last 13 years.
Jane moved on to primetime, but she's back tonight for our trip down memory lane. Jane, that makes me miss you so much.
I was all misting over. Boy, well, you know, I grew up here. Of all the hosts over the years who have come and gone, I think I get the medal as the one who changed the most, because I arrived, I was a baby. I was ridiculously too young for the job. I was 3 years out of college, And when I left, I was a middle-aged mother of 3.
But you proved
Changed
yourself
a
to
lot.
be up to the task.
I got up every day. I never arrived late. Is that what you mean?
No, I meant you did a good job, and
Thank you.
people loved you.
Well, thank you.
Do you remember that first day, Jane? I think about how I was 34 and scared out of my wits. You must have been petrified at 25.
I wasn't smart enough to know how scared I ought to be. But in those days, I was constantly asked what it felt like to follow in Barbara Walters' footsteps. I very cleverly figured out and persuaded myself that this was true. As I said, Tom Brokaw followed in Barbara Walters' footsteps. So I put all the pressure on Tom. And to a degree, this was true, but also it was a very clever defense mechanism of mine. It was Tom Brokaw following Barbara Walters and Jane's new job.
Are there any best moments, or do you hate that question?
You know, I can think of a worst moment. It was the time I was asked if I had my emergency script. Have you ever heard that phrase, emergency
Gosh, no, I
script?
wish I had one a lot of times.
It was Mexico City, Museum of Anthropology. Tom Brokaw was atop the Teotihuacan, atop the Pyramid of the Moon, I think, and they couldn't find him. He was there, but the signal could not be found. Ooh. They bounced all over Mexico, could not get Tom Brokaw. Now, I'd been on the Today program at that point for less than a year, and suddenly it was the Today Show with Jane Pauley and without Tom. And suddenly, and he says, do you have your emergency script? And of course, there wasn't an emergency. There had been such a thing. So I basically winged it. I remember doing a 5-minute monologue about the Aztec Indians because I had in my panic photo memory of a brochure I had read before I went to bed in my hotel room. That was the worst of it, except that we found Tom an hour later as the sun rose behind the Pyramid of the Moon. It looked like we'd planned it.
And I'm sure you wanted to just run up and grab him and kiss him. You're so glad to see him.
I had aged at least 10 years, and in those days I needed that.
But the best part to you was the traveling, really, wasn't it?
Oh, I think so. I look back and remember just being in the Roman Colosseum broadcasting, on the Great Wall of China, in the Vatican meeting the Pope, the Orient Express with my sister. We had fun.
Do you miss it?
So much. I sure do.
Well, we miss you.
I surely do.
Thanks, Jane.
Thank you.
Now here's Bryant.
All right, Katie. When Dave Garroway, this program's first host, left today in 1961, his replacement was a young foreign correspondent named John Chancellor. He, in turn, was followed by Hugh Downs, who took us on up through 1970. Gentlemen, welcome back. You two represent different ends of the spectrum. You loved the job. You hated it.
That's right.
Why?
Well, I was a young fella in my early 30s. Or you weren't any older, but I was a foreign correspondent, I thought, by trade. And I thought my life had ended when NBC ordered me to take this job. I wanted to get back to the world. And 14 months later, I did.
You were off to Brussels.
Yes, sir. That's right.
Hugh, you loved it from the start.
I loved it, and I owe a lot to John, both on tips of what to avoid and whatnot, and for the fact that he bailed out and went back to hard news, and I had a decade of real joy. I enjoyed doing this.
You were also unusual in that you rarely did Just Today, right? I mean, you generally had another show at the same time.
Always. I was doing a game show Concentration at the same time. I look back now and wonder not only how I did that, but why. You know, it made a heavy. And when I was doing the Jack Parr Tonight show, I was that overlapped the Home show, and there was all kinds of.
And finally, the government moved in under the child labor laws and stopped it.
We also owe you, John, a bit of gratitude because you used to have those fights about reading the commercials. Yes.
I wouldn't read any commercials, and the news division backed me up. The program department had a nervous breakdown. Because they wanted the host to do the commercials. Garroway had done it. But I knew that I would never get back to that foreign correspondent's life if I did commercials, so I couldn't do it.
So you never did any?
No, and the news division backed me up on it.
But I'm baffled. I mean, you're a man of vast general knowledge. You're besides being a journalist, you're a generalist. It would seem this show's tailor-made for you.
It would be, I would have been a few years later, but I just was on a different career track. I wanted to see more of the world before I worked out of a studio. And Frank Blair always used to call me the outside guy. You're the outside guy. What he would say, I'm the inside guy. I read the news. He read the news on the program.
Yeah.
And you're the outside guy. All you want to do is get outside.
Well, we all come in as outsiders and leave it very much as insiders. Hugh, you came and you stayed a long time.
9 years. Actually, 9 years.
It fit you well.
Yeah. I liked everything about it except the early hours, which I don't have to tell you about.
Did the hours get to you?
They got to me. I never had quite enough sleep and never got used to it, really. Of course, there were wonderful things about it that ameliorated that, I think. The fact that very shortly after I came on, we got Barbara on the air, and that was a real plus for the show. And in terms of, those were glory years, because in terms of adjusted dollars and ratings, we were the only game in town, so it's not fair to compare it to anything now. Because Captain Kangaroo was on CBS, and ABC wasn't even on the air then.
Yeah.
So we had it kind of all to ourselves, and it was a glorious time.
It was the only program on network television on which I ever fell asleep while the program was on the air. That has happened to every one of these hosts. You sit there and...
Guys, thanks. When we come back, we'll have some vintage laughs. We'll get to that after this.
Well, Harpo, I know you have many and varied interests, and the harp is only one of them. And Harpo, I said you have many and varied interests, and the harp is only... Harpo... Oh, no.
Do you have a cold?
Yes, I do. It feels like the ocean is in my head.
Here's 2 cold medicines. This relieves these 3 symptoms, this 9. Choose one.
9. I have all of those symptoms. Sinus pain, nasal congestion, and I have a scratchy throat.
Here's what you chose. Are you shocked?
Yeah, I am.
Would you try Dristan Cold? How do you feel?
The Dristan really works.
And for hot, soothing relief when the flu hits, try new Dristan Cold and Flu.
So bogus. This thing looks brand new, and I've been starting halfback all season. My mom uses
new Fab Ultra.
She says it gets out
dirt you see and dirt you don't.
Huh?
Well, like perspiration and odors.
Gross.
With my Fab Ultra, the whole wash looks newer longer.
Newer longer? How lame.
Well, lame is good, right?
Mom, I look like I sit the bench.
Oh, you look so handsome.
I give up.
New Fab Ultra helps clothes look newer longer.
Here, this'll speed up the shopping.
Now just get what's on your list.
Okay. Oh, Honey Bunches of Oats. It's not on my list, but I gotta have it.
My favorite.
Honey Bunches of Oats. Mom won't mind.
Honey Bunches of Oats is so delicious, it's everyone's favorite. With crispy flakes of corn and wheat, bunches of honey roasted oats, it's the cereal your whole family will love.
Oh, I forgot the Honey Bunches of Oats. I don't think that's a problem.
Honey Bunches of Oats, the one cereal your whole family will love.
Some say a 1930s fashion-inspired Lincoln Town Car. Perhaps it was simply the spirit of the times. We only know that today, Town Car is the most spacious, most quiet automobile you can own. Lincoln Town Car. What a luxury car should be.
In the last decade, 70% of all cocaine in America came from Colombia's Medellin cartel. Sunday, NBC presents the story of the drug enforcement agents who attacked them and brought down their leaders.
We'll be waiting.
Based on the actual events of the biggest bust in history, Drug Wars, the Cocaine Cartel, Sunday on NBC.
If you've watched Today lately, I think you know everybody here. Gene Shalit, Joe Garagiola, Faith Daniels, Willard Scott. Am I the only guy that gets nostalgic at these things 40 years?
No, everybody does.
Huh? But when you were on the first-time tour, you didn't do these big Jamokas every time you hit an anniversary, did you?
No. We were lucky to get on, I guess.
Oh, come on, that ain't true.
It's been a week, folks. That was the first one.
Well, you should talk. Of all
option is picked up.
Of all of our current cast members, this man right here has been here the longest. In his 20-plus years, Mr. Gene Shalit has talked to a remarkable array of individuals.
Hello. Welcome once again to the Today Show. And now I'd like to bring on a very dear friend of mine who has been in show business in a wonderful way. Please welcome Gene Shalit. Shalit. Here he is. Take it away, Gene. God bless you.
What
does this cost? That cigar costs $1.25.
If I paid $1.25 for a cigar, first I'd kiss it, then I'd smoke it.
What's your favorite food, Mel?
Ketchup. It's not the food itself, it's the action I like. I like the action with ketchup. I mean, it makes the blood flow in my right palm.
This is a thick split pea soup coming to a furious boil.
Comrades, smoke Bruchkins. Bruchkins are not merely the coolest, the finest, and the best cigarettes in Russia. They are the only cigarettes in Russia.
Do you think you might ever marry Miss Piggy?
But once again, you're asking another embarrassing question.
Am I to infer from what you're saying that you'd rather not discuss this subject?
Yes, exactly.
Well, I don't often get a chance to use infer, and I wanted to get that word out today.
Infer. Yes, well, frogs don't travel in fur.
I told him when I close my show here, I would like to go to Istanbul. And he said, when you go to Istanbul, so I said, I beg your pardon. So he said, I say, when you go to Istanbul, so finally, after repeating it 3 or 4 days, I said to Lady Astor, do you know what is Sir Benjamin saying? And she said, oh, he's saying, when you get to Istanbul, you must taste the cherries. They're as big as golf balls. So I said, well, now, wait a minute. I said, how do you know what you just said? So Lady Astor said, she said, oh, well, that's what they always say when you're on your way to Istanbul.
Did you really replace Joe Garagiola when you first came on?
I did never replace Joe, but I sat in the same seat that he had vacated.
They only had one chair and you got it.
That's right. It was low budget.
He went off to do baseball games for every day.
Well, I was on the show before Joe, but irregularly. You know, every 2 weeks I came on and did the Critics'
And you
Corner.
got regular after that.
And I got regular after that. Well, I listened to Willard's commercials, and I got regular. One thing about Gene, he was never afraid to laugh. You know, a lot of guys on television,
That's because he can't stop when he's
No, but I remember we used to have some great sessions. Remember the one about the Pope with the food and all that? I laid a line on him, and I started to do a piece on the air, and I couldn't continue because what I was reading made me laugh. So he had to pick it up, and he grabbed my script and started. No prompters in those days. He read off the paper, and he started to laugh, and it was about the Pope and what he had given up for Lent, which is.
Oh gosh!
Who did you replace when you came on 11 plus years ago?
Bob Ryan, who is now doing the weather in Washington, and very, very well. I might.
Has anything gotten as much attention for you as the Carmen Miranda bit?
Absolutely not. Not anything. Of all the things that I've ever done in my entire career, to go on the air, which was a foolish thing to do, but it turned out to be the greatest thing in the world because the next day, at least everybody knew who I was.
Do you want to give them the brief story of how it came about?
Well, basically, you and I were on the air, and they'd done a piece on tape about Carmen Miranda. They were opening up a library in Brazil, a memorabilia library, because that was her home country. And the piece was over, and you came back and said something about Carmen Miranda. And I said, well, all of us in World War II, all the kids used to dress up as Carmen Miranda. It was a thing to do. We raised money for war bonds. And I did. I dressed up like Carmen Miranda and bought a Jeep for the Army. And you said, well, gee, would you do it again? Which is probably the only mistake you ever made in your entire life. And I said, sure, if somebody will send $1,000 to the USO. And so it goes.
Did. It was all for a good cause.
It was good.
But you also dressed up as Boy George.
Oh, yes. Well, I like wearing dresses. What can I say? We're all being honest.
Now it can be told, and you still have Carmen Miranda's shoes.
All right, these were the earrings. We didn't wear those on the show that day. These are the original platform shoes that were tailor-made for us. This was back in the big buck days of NBC when they spent lots of money. These shoes cost.
I had something like that in the 70s.
Yeah, you wore them, right?
And you never dressed up as anything, but you did a lot of weird things here.
We did a lot of crazy things, and I remember playing oina. I remember fencing. I remember doing all kinds of weird. I tried everything.
They ever ask you to do something you refused to do?
No. Although I couldn't do heights. I mean, I couldn't go up high.
Why?
I just don't like heights. I get queasy and all As that. far as batting average, it was in the 200s. That's right. I didn't like to see high averages.
Nice shot.
Nice zingers.
That's right. That's why you've
In
lasted
fact,
20
one of the
years.
funny ones, I did a thing at Indianapolis, and the idea was we were up in the blimp, and we were supposed to, and Parnelli Jones was next to me, and Parnelli was going to describe the drivers going around the track. Well, I'm leaning back like this. I don't have to do anything, so Parnelli's here.
You're already up.
Oh, yeah, and I'm doing this kind of thing, you know, when are we going to get down? And Mart Hochstein, I'll never forget it, he was the writer on the thing, and he's watching it, and the cameraman is supposed to be there, and we get in the screening room, it's all over the place. And Mart says to the guy, what happened? The guy said, I'm afraid of heights. The cameraman.
Oh, come on. What would happen when you go up there, you get queasy?
Oh, yeah.
There's an art to going high. That's why you get Cuisinart. We're going to come back and... Sorry, just a little bit. Well, it's a long way to go for it, with a little Valentine for our viewers.
Oh, were you waiting for that one? I teed it up there.
We'll get to that in a moment, right after this.
Well, now we're going to break for a few seconds, and then we'll be right back.
I've had my share of sore throats. I just went to the doc with a doozy. Nobody suggested for fastest relief? Psst, psst. Chloroseptic. Doc was right. I could actually feel the pain go away in seconds.
More doctors recommend Chloroseptic spray for fastest relief because Chloroseptic's powerful medicine penetrates nerve endings on contact.
I can't prevent a sore throat from ever coming back, but when it does, I don't have to suffer.
For fastest relief, doctors say Chloroseptic spray.
This is the best alternative to liquid bleach ever.
New Liquid Tide with bleach alternative.
Things go in dingy and dirty, and they come out white.
This is what I've been waiting for, a liquid detergent that whitens.
I can even get these socks white.
Give it your grungiest. This leading liquid gets it this white, but the Tide alternative is whiter.
It's a great bleach alternative.
This is your alternative to detergent and separate bleach. Safe for colors. New Liquid Tide with bleach alternative.
I've not used a drop of bleach. One detergent does it all.
The alternative is whiter.
Coming up next on the Channel 4 News Nightcast, a City of Miami fireman and his wife in hot water with the law tonight. Busted for allegedly operating a burglary ring in their neighborhood.
Florida's governor makes a pitch for new taxes. We'll have reaction.
Plus, a cold wave is coming to South Florida, and already the Salvation Army is asking for your help. The Nightcast is next.
Where has Kramer's arm been?
Smell my arm.
You gotta smell it.
It's invigorating. So is shock therapy.
To believe it.
Stop smelling your arm.
On Seinfeld. Then Dan picks a beauty queen with real talent.
I hope this wrapper means she's been sanitized for your protection.
Night Court after an all-new Seinfeld following Unsolved Mysteries Wednesday.
During today's maiden year, there were rumors that the show was wreaking havoc on sacred morning rituals. And so, host Dave Garroway casually one morning asked his viewers how, when, and from where they watched. Much to his surprise, he received 6,000 letters, some of which were compiled in this pamphlet called Todaymanship.
One viewer wrote, I cut a 6 by 6 foot opening between the kitchen and living room. Now I can get a full view of the goings-on whilst dunking my morning donuts. Another added a cautionary note, orange juice must be squeezed before 7 as mixer throws picture off.
And so 40 years later, today viewers are still finding creative ways to tune in. As part of our celebration this evening, we wanted to officially thank you for being there.
A good bit of the news of the day and a good bit of what television is all about is bringing people into houses all over the country. And we try very hard to bring every kind of person, whether it be a cabinet officer or a cab driver or an outfielder or an actress. We invite them in and try to learn more about them and thereby about all people.
You do something to me, something that simply mystifies me.
No matter where you live, no matter how rural your area, you're part of the world. You want to know what's happening and how it's going to affect you.
This is Today with Frank
Well, I was busy doing chores and things and couldn't stay in the house to watch it. So it just made sense to have a television in the barn so that I could watch the Today Show and catch the latest news without missing anything.
What are your circumstances at home when you see our show?
Well, I just keep moving the TV around to the most advantageous points.
Brian is back with the Today Show this morning. Brian and Katie together. And what a team. It's Good Morning, St. Louis. Jim Gates here at Soul 63. Sharing the Today Show and the information from the Today Show is sort of like, it's like a newswire, but more than that, it's like company. And it's sort of like a little team with me. We kind of work together every morning.
Well, you know, the thing I like about the Today Show, too, is they kind of remind me of some of my horses. My little filly kind of reminds me of Katie, you know, kind of spunky, young and spunky. And my mare kind of reminds me of Bryant Gumbel. No fooling around, concise to the point. You know, she doesn't like to play around much. And then old Willard, well, he kind of reminds me of my girlfriend's gelding, you know. Kind of old faithful, rain, snow, sleet, he gets you there.
We watch it during shift changes. It's a nice way to spend your break. We enjoy it because it's part of our history. It's part of our childhood. The early days of TV was a magical time for me.
What do you like best about it?
Well, the best thing I like is when J. Fred Muggs is on.
I can remember a long time ago, probably when I was about 6 years old, when my mother took me to the Lasher's department store in Columbus, Ohio, to see J. Fred Muggs when he was making a personal appearance. And then right after his appearance, my mother bought me this doll that I've had ever since. He's my childhood sweetheart.
We were one of the first families to have a TV in my hometown. And I started watching the Today Show. And I remember one morning distinctly seeing President Harry Truman walk up to the window, look in, and then he continued with his morning stroll.
We'll have Manhattan, the Bronx, and Staten Island, too.
In 1956, my husband and I went to New York for a couple of days vacation, leaving our 4 young children at home in Knoxville, Tennessee. Well, when he had a heart attack immediately after we got there, and it was almost 9 weeks before we went back, I would stand outside the Today Show window and hold signs so that the kids would know that everything was still okay before they went to school each morning.
I was watching the show 8 years ago, and I went into sudden labor, very powerful labor. And Jane Crowley was carrying the twins at the time, and I felt a strong bond with her because she was pregnant also. And my husband came down in time to coach me through the rest of the labor and deliver the baby, Maggie, at 8:05 during the Today Show.
You do something to me that nobody else can do.
By any and all standards, the Today program has enjoyed a wonderful 40-year run. As we look to an equally bright future, we say thanks to those of you who have been with us out there and those in here who've worked so hard to make it worth your while. Thanks all around, and good night. Cheers.
Well, I want to thank everybody on the NBC team on both sides of the Atlantic for putting together what I, as an industry spectator, thought was really quite a show.
Tomorrow morning on Today, Colin Powell, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, joins Bryant Gumbel and Katie Couric for a look back at the Gulf War 1 year later. Tomorrow morning on Today. And tomorrow night, what is Jerry doing that has Elaine howling with laughter and George filled with despair? Find out on an all-new Seinfeld. Then on an all-new Night Court, Dan's judging a beauty pageant, but can he keep his hands off the contestants? Tomorrow night on NBC.
And thank you for being a part of our show, too. And peace.